Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Tim. Hi, Tim.
We miss you, Tim.
We really don't.
Not all of us.
Wow, tough crowd, tough crowd. All right, so if you're Tim and you're watching this from home, hello. All right, so we're talking about batteries still, again, all week. And let's see, so we're talking about NiCad specifically. And I think that's point 10. Maybe not. Service and inspection. Inspection. There we go. All right. Number 1, or A, I should say, follow the manufacturer's ICAW, which stands for what? Instructions for continued airworthiness. There we go. All right, that kind of goes without saying, but you used to seeing that. So, again, when as a mechanic examiner, and you're in front of a mechanic examiner, which I know you guys are going to do great, you're asked to inspect a battery compartment. What are the things you're going to want to look for? Corrosion. What else? Leakage. Oops, this is inspect for. Inspect for, no, put I, leakage. Did we cover this yesterday? Possibly. All right. And as a reminder, and you guys seem to be doing very well with this, I always had a hard time if I would ask somebody, as an examiner, hey, I need you to inspect this battery. And they would go, I got this. Okay, I'm done. Okay, you got to verbalize. You got to tell me what you're looking for, Hey, I'm going to check this, look for corrosion on the posts, make sure that the lid doesn't come off, make sure that the caps don't fall apart, just kind of make up some stuff as you go. But if you could do that, most of the time you do just fine. All right, what are we going to clean spills with? Clean spills with what? Baking soda.
Kevin, what does that 2 say on B2?
Leakage, corrosion, inspect for corrosion, leakage. Baking soda solution.
You can't just sprinkle baking soda on it.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. First of all, do not let the baking soda enter the battery. Because why?
Because alkaline in batteries has to do.
That kind of neutralizes it, so that's a bad thing. So it depends on what the solution. So I just say solution. It depends on what I'm doing. So if it's on top of the battery, I'd be very careful not to get it in. But one of the things that I would do sometimes is make like a paste, so it wasn't actually running or anything. You could actually stick it to something, like a toothpaste consistency, and you can put it on some metal, like especially if it's a vertical thing, you can put it on, just kind of leave it there for a little bit, or because if it's too runny, it just runs off. I kind of want it to sit there for a little bit. Yeah.
The corrosion on the posts, can you use like one of the post cleaners like you use for automotive?
I've never seen where it says you can't. I usually use a little stainless brush and go around, or you gotta be careful because some batteries will tell you don't use stainless, especially NiCads, because the posts are so close together. You're brushing across it, and then if you do it, you'll notice that your brush starts turning red, hot. Okay, look at that. Better cleaning, that's what I say. Okay, so don't let that happen. Check the electrolyte level. And by that, I mean, how high is it? Not what the reading is of the hydrometer. So make sure the electrolyte level is acceptable, providing it's a battery that you can actually take the caps off of. If it's sealed, well, then you can't. I've seen, depends on the manual, but I've seen 3/8 inch above plates. And in this battery here, you can see the plates. So it'll be 3/8 of an inch above that. Or some batteries want you to fill it up to the level indicator. To the level to the level indicator. And if I looked at this one, it's got like level indicators. And so you have the, so Tim can see. So got the hole, and so there's often like a little indent that comes down, or sometimes it's even got a slot cut in it. And so the water level should be right up to, electrolyte level should be right up to the bottom of that. And I've even seen where sometimes they want it a little bit below that. So you just have to read the manual. So what's that? I think, what's Gill now? 1/8 inch below, I think they're specific. 1/8. So they want 1/8 between that right there. So I've seen, okay, 3/8 inch above the plates, some are to the level indicator. We could even add this one, or 1/8 inch below. How do you know which one to choose?
Manual.
Manual. All right. Well, I guess 4. Add only what?
Distilled or deionized water.
All right, I'm going to say distilled water. What is distilled water?
Water.
It's water that's been like evaporated and then recollected, or
There's a guy who runs a still in his house. It's like making whiskey, but it
Yeah.
So I worked, when I was new and I worked for this place, I don't mean to be unkind. There was a guy, he was so nice. He was really just a heart of gold. Really, I mean that. And so I have to service a battery, and I said, hey, do we have any distilled water? And he says, well, absolutely. He gives me a little jar, and you can tell it's got a little straw, and I think it even said distilled water on there. And thank you. And I filled up the battery, did my thing, and a couple days later I had another one, and used up all the water. And I said, well, I used all the water in the little thing. Do I need some more distilled water? He goes, that's okay, Kevin, I'll get you some. Takes the cap off, walks over to the sink, and turns on the sink. Now, mind you, this was not like, it makes this water look like health water. I mean, in fact, one of the guys, he would show up in the morning, just turn the faucet on the sink, and just let it run all day long. Because it was on a well right outside of where we washed engines. So, they tell you this, right? So we had this stuff called Turco, and they would wash parts in Turco, then bring it out and hose it down with Stoddard solvent, and that would happen like right here in the well was like where the door is. So, and this place had been before the war. So I mean, they've been doing that for a very long time. So the water was not very good. And it came out brown for the first half hour. So the guy would just turn the water on the sink. Anyway, so this guy gives me this, and he fills it up, puts the cap back on, and he goes, all right, I'll be ready in a little bit. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, distilled water. It means like water that has been settled. I'm like, no, that's not what that means at all. Oh, I thought that's what it means. Actually, I never got that until you said it. But yes, it was like still water. And he was very serious about it. I'm like, no, it's actually something you buy at a store. It's distilled. So I didn't know. It's what I've been using for years. I'm like, oh, well. Why would I not want to use that? Well, I was using that nasty old water. I just didn't know it. Why don't you want to use some nasty old water out of the faucet?
It has sediment and stuff like that. It's conductive.
Sediment, minerals, all kinds of stuff. It's not what. So add only. Oh, I should put clean distilled water. All right. Testing. Well, originally I wanted to talk a little bit about the testers that you guys are using to do the internal resistance project, but those are fine. What they are is it's just a voltmeter with resistance inside. So when you hit the switch, it is going to put a load on the battery. You can see like an oven element back in there. It gets red hot, supposed to. Puts a draw on the battery, then you read what the remaining voltage is. So it's just doing a closed circuit voltage. But things have changed, I don't want to say rapidly, but it feels like it to me, and the way batteries are now dealt with. And in order to really maintain a battery properly, you don't use something like that. I don't know if you guys have looked back in the tool room, but we have it looks like a suitcase, but it's a very nice battery charger where you can dial in how much resistance you want. You can dial in if you want constant potential, constant current. It's whatever, however you want to do it. And so the instruction for continued airworthiness on a lot of batteries now want you to do a measured discharge. So you have to kind of get used to doing measured discharges. So I'm just going to be testing rather than talk about that other little machine, which really isn't mentioned in the instructions for continued airworthiness, so we wouldn't use it. You're going to do measured discharges now. Measured discharges. So you have to follow the instructions on there. You have to test the electrolyte. Electrolyte hydrometer test. Well, hydrometer is like a floating thermometer. Anybody in here have saltwater fishies? That would be a no. Well, if you have saltwater fish, first thing you learn how to use is a hydrometer. And a hydrometer, at least for my little fishy tank, it is weighted, so it had some like lead shot down here, and then it had a thermometer right here, so I could read the temperature of my fishies. And then along here, it would have a scale of specific gravity, and I would drop it in the fish tank, and it would float at a certain level. And so I could read the temp down here. That's temp. But this right here was the specific gravity. SG, specific gravity. And the more salt I added, the higher it would float. And the more water I added without salt, the lower it would go. So, of course, in my fish tank, it had a little green stripe, you know, it said, okay, it's got to be between here if you want to keep your fish alive. So if the thing started to sink, then what do I have to do? Add some salt to the fish tank. All right, and if it was too high, add a little bit of water. And so usually what happened is the water would evaporate off and the salt would accumulate, and so you have to add a little water to it. So, all right, so it's the same thing, but you're going to do this with a battery, and there are no fish in the battery. And the fish won't die. All right there? Okay. All right, so we're going to do the hydrometer test. And let me see, where do we go with this? So a couple of rules about doing a hydrometer test. So you're going to, I have one right here in case we didn't. This is the one in my toolbox. So here you have the hydrometer. Mine has little colored balls that float in there. So it just tells you state of charge.
Is that the aviation one?
Yeah, this is the aviation one for sure. I haven't used it in so long. If no balls float, it's discharged. If 1, it's 25%. If 2, but it actually has the numbers on here. So it goes from 1.145 up to 1.254, which doesn't quite line up with aviation. So it's an automotive one. All right, so electrolyte. When are we going to test this? Only if water was not just added. Why? Because
it'll give you an erroneous reading.
Yeah, it hasn't mixed. So believe it or not, the water and the acid, they, in theory, haven't mixed up, so you're going to get an inaccurate reading. So if water was just added, let the battery set. Let battery set. And it gives it time to mix up.
Or you can just put up one of those paint shaker things.
The whole battery?
Yeah.
Of course you could, yes. Take it down to Lowe's and just ask them to put that in your little machine. All right, so it measures the specific gravity. Specific gravity, abbreviated SG, of the electrolyte as compared to water. Zeus, you're a loud cruncher. Sulfuric acid. Let's see. Where do I find the sulfuric acid? Inside the battery. Has a higher specific gravity than water. So when the battery is fully charged, the electrolyte has more water or more acid? Okay. The battery is charged. Electrolyte is more acidic, or more, I'll just put more acid, is more acid than water. Just to keep it simplified. And when battery is dead, electrolyte, E-L-E-C-T-R-O, electrolyte is more what? More water than acid. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So we'll back up just a little bit. So battery, electrolyte, more acid than water. A lot of, so mine has these little, that I'm showing you has these little floating balls in there, but usually it has a little hydrometer just like I drew. It floats in there, and you're going to read the top right where the water level comes across it. So if it is more acid, is it going to rise up or is it going to sink?
Rise up.
Okay. And if it's water, it's going to
Sink.
sink or float lower. All right, so what are we looking for on these hydrometer readings? So I'll put this over here, 5. H-Y-D-R-O. Hydrometer readings. All right, first is, where do I find the information for these hydrometer readings? Now, this has got it printed right on here. Clearly shows me it's 1.254 is fully charged.
I'd say the general, Kevin.
Well, you'd be almost right. Is the general, how about 4313? Okay, that's a better place. And by the way, this one also says specific gravity at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So it would be inaccurate at anything other than 80 degrees. We'll get to that. So hydrometer readings, 1.300. By the way, what does water read on a hydrometer?
1.
Reads 1. So water is 1. So we can look for that.
Distilled water.
So 13 to 1.275. This is considered a high state of charge. High state of charge. We have 1.275 to 1.240 medium state of charge. 1.240 to 1.200 is considered low. So what if it's 1.240? What is it?
Medium.
It's medium low. Medium low. Medium. All right. Now, as I just pointed out, hydrometer readings must be corrected for temperature. Must be corrected for temp. All right, so I just told you that, well, maybe let's see here. Oop, right there.
Look at that.
Okay, so it is, I have to test this battery, so I put this in here and I squeeze the bulb and I let it and it comes up and it fills the whole thing up, and I've got a specific gravity reading of 1.2, let's say, pen, of 1.2 7. 1.270. Right? So far, high or low? Good or bad?
Medium.
Okay, medium. All right, but I have to do a temperature correction. And what does it say back there?
75 degrees, Kevin.
All right, so 75 degrees. So what is my correction?
-6. -2.
All right, so that was a hard one. All right, why don't we just say
That was the actual number. It was like close to that.
75 is between, well, it's 75 is right here, so it's right in between. So what is it going to be?
-2.
-2. Well, you know what?
What the hell are you doing?
No,
I don't
correct.
know. You'd be wrong.
Between 70 and...
Why would you be wrong?
I don't know, the temp says 75.
It's the temperature of the battery.
It said electrolyte temperature. It doesn't say room temperature.
Uh,
Yeah, you guys suckers. So you have to think about that. If it's cold out, but it just came out of an engine compartment where it's very warm, you know, say, well, it's cold out. Hey, it's, you know,
can you
geez,
put
it's,
a heat gun on?
well, yeah. Yeah, if it's cold, I could see Brett doing this. Look, it's got to be 80 degrees, and I either got to do a temperature correction, which requires math, or just get a heat gun and hold it here until it's 80. I know which one you're going to choose.
So why the hydrometer has its own temperature gauge, right?
All right, so now, in my travels in the tool room, I found a few weeks ago brand new hydrometers with a nice little.
Thermometer.
It was a thermometer, but the thermometer didn't even read in temperature; it read in correction. So all you had to do was look where the red mark was, and it told you right there either add 8 or subtract 8. But it lasted about 2 days until somebody broke it.
I really don't.
So if you're using it, don't use it because one of them it's cracked and broken in the middle, and so somebody used it today, and Christian used it. Poor Christian is like, yeah, but it says to correct it like for 18 points. I'm like, well, it's broken and you can't tell, so you kind of not his fault.
Poor
Huh.
bastard. Glass.
Well, Christian got mad, and no, I don't know.
I got frustrated.
Prince did it.
That's another word for mad.
Well, you raised your hand. I thought that's what you meant. Yes.
Why is it linear? Because the density of water is not linear.
Well, when I was at the convention for deciding this, we got together. It was a subcommittee of people, and
That would make a huge difference, and it wouldn't make it completely inaccurate.
why is it or why is it not linear?
No, it is linear.
Okay, it is linear.
Okay.
And you're asking why?
Water is not linear in temperature.
Electrolyte.
Okay, there's almost 40 of us in here. You're the one that knows that, so. We don't know this stuff. We're just dumb mechanics. Because sulfuric acid is linear. Google it.
Did you just have to take a
I don't know. I made that up, right? I don't know why this is like that. All right, so rule number 1, you have to do a temperature correction. Number 2, it's not the temperature of the air, it's the temperature of the electrolyte. So you need to know what the battery temperature is. So if I could redo this now, I said, it's 1.270. The outside air temperature, which is actually called OAT, O-A-T, outside air temperature, that's a real thing, is 75. But the battery temp, because it just came out of an engine compartment, is 95 degrees. What is my correction?
What's the deal with these spots?
Plus
90 degrees.
plus 4.
Plus 4.
Okay, it's plus 4, so plus 4, so it's 5.2. That's really charged well, isn't it?
No.
No?
Really, really well. Really
No,
well.
really 1.274.
1.274. It goes down here. It's 0.004. All right, everybody got that? That's 0.004. It's the only thing that would make sense because otherwise it'd be like 1.670. Is that good? I mean, look at what numbers I just told you.
No.
Oh, it's way too. So if it ended up being 1.6 or something, what do you got to do?
Concentrate it, so
Oh, you got to discharge it real quick, huh?
Yeah.
No, so it's so when you add the 4, it's 0.004 or 0.012, 0.016. All right. So make sure it's the battery temperature, not the outside air temperature. I know. What happens if the battery temperature is 10 degrees? 10 degrees.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit right next to it, so that eliminates
Minus
that
13.
question.
Minus 20.
Celsius. Yeah, you just want to move at that point. Just call it a day. I wouldn't even. Don't be there. Something broke. All right. So it must be corrected for temp. Let me see where I'm at. Let's see. So I write this corrected for temp. I'll finish this of the electrolyte not outside temperature or ambient temp. I'll put ambient, not ambient. That means the air around you. It's not a sleeping drug. So AC 43.13. What's that book called? Acceptable Methods, Practices, and Techniques. Shows no correction at 80 degrees F only. F only. So only at 80 degrees Fahrenheit does it show no correction. However, your textbook,
From 70 until.
which is also called what there, Steve?
The general.
That's one of them, yep. We had a conversation about this today and I was lost.
I have a joke about how you need.
And I can't get it, I don't understand it. Somebody will have to explain it to me.
Oh, come
All right. Textbook states, or at least the one before the alpha, maybe they changed it, I haven't looked, 70 to 90 degrees F requires no correction. So which one is correct?
AC 43.13.
You got that right.
15.
The FAA makes both, so why is there?
One's accepted material and one's not.
Yeah, but why would they teach you something that is not correct?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I don't know. There's a lot of inconsistencies.
That's irrelevant.
All right. What do you do with this electrolyte that you've just sucked up into aforementioned hydrometer?
Put it back in the correct cell.
Drink it.
Put it back in the bag.
Perfect.
Put it right back in the same cell. So, return electrolyte to same cell. Same cell, let's see. Check all cells. Not just some. Well, if one's good, I guess they're all good. A difference. A difference of 0.050 between cells. All right, let's just talk about that. What happens if I get a difference between 0.05 between cells?
The levels are low.
So what do I do with the one that is low? Don't say level because it's not a level. Level is like a flow. The hydrometer reading. What if you have one cell that's reading a little low? Add. What will it do if I add distilled water? Not the level low, the hydrometer reading.
Spend the
It'll
cell.
dilute it.
Lower.
Then you need electrolyte.
Add electrolyte. Okay. Kind of was hoping here.
Manufacturer says.
I believe that there's only one instance where the manual ever allows you to add electrolyte. I'm sorry, two. One, when you first buy it. Two, when you spill it. Okay, so if I take a hydrometer reading and this one here in the middle is 0.050 lower than this one, do I add electrolyte?
No.
I only add electrolyte if I spill it. Okay.
Oops. Oh, darn it. Just spilled some.
All right, so what does it mean if there's a difference between them then? What am I supposed to do?
Throw it away.
Add water.
Okay, first of all, why is it lower to begin with? What is it low? What is a low? Not level,
Lower
but a
state of
low.
charge.
It can evaporate.
Why am I doing a hydrometer reading to begin with?
State of charge.
State of charge. Okay, so why does that indicate the state of charge? Well, this goes back to when we were talking about the chemistry. I said the takeaway, because you didn't have to memorize that. The takeaway is, as the cell discharges, the electrolyte becomes more like
Water.
water. So here we have a cell that is more like water, so it is therefore less charged. And we've tried charging it, or it's been on a charger, and the neighbors have a specific gravity that's higher, but this one doesn't. So what does that tell you about that cell? Bad. It's not accepting a charge. It's going bad. It's not returning to sulfuric acid. So pouring more acid in it to try and get it up may work for a minute or a very short period of time, but that's not why you're checking it. So you're fixing the wrong symptom. So it means you have a bad cell. Between cells indicates battery is near end of life. It's got to go to battery hospice. It's not a good joke, is it? What's that?
I keep making jokes about Steve.
Oh. All right. Okay, so I just want to drill this in because it's consistent among all of the classes and all the people that I seem to be teaching. So I want to make sure that I'm getting it right for you. If the specific gravity reading is low, do you add sulfuric acid to get it up? No, only if you spill it. Now,
Or you just bought it.
off the record, I will tell you that a lot of people have told me, oh, you get a battery that's not working, it's not charging. What you do is you take it, you go out to the gutter, and you dump it out in the gutter in front of your house, get all that sulfuric acid. In fact, they say, I kid you not, best thing you can do with it is take it and drop it a couple times.
That way you get it off.
I was trying to say somebody, yeah.
Cells.
So one of the students about 2 years ago decided to take some of the, I looked at one of the batteries, they did it. You know, well, that's what Kevin said. They dropped it, and you can see all the corners all bashed in. I think it started leaking. Maybe you still have it or not. But anyway, drop it. So what is dropping it going to do?
Shake off all the oxidation.
Oxidation, what's it called? It's called something. Lead sulfate. Yeah. Okay. So it drops it all down here into the bottom. Okay, and then you dump out all the electrolyte. And some people say even take it and shake it upside down. You can get some of that extra lead out of here. Then buy new electrolyte and pour it in there.
Oh my god.
It works.
I suppose if you want to do that with your car and you're not doing it in the gutter, knock yourself out. I don't know where you buy electrolyte for a car battery, but it's Gatorade, I suppose.
Mountain Dew.
But I promise you, in fact, I will buy you a lunch at a nice restaurant if you can find anywhere in the instructions for continued airworthiness that you can drop it, drain it, refill it, any of those things. You got a lunch on me. All right.
You can only make a
So there we go. That's yeah. That's that. So if you do have the water level is a little low, electrolyte level is low, then you add a little distilled water. Distilled water is
Water's been sitting for a while.
it's still.
Grandma's fridge, just on the windowsill.
All right, you have a question.
So I ran into some batteries the other day. It had one cap up top. So you popped it off, and you can see all of the cells.
Mm-hmm.
How would you go about that? I mean, instead of, because it didn't have individual caps, it was just one big cap. It had an opening like that when you took the cap off.
Could you see all 6 cells in a divider between them?
Yeah, I mean, you can see like 3. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. It was a 6-volt battery, so.
Okay, so there's only 3. Well, like for example, the car battery that we have over there, a couple of them, they only have 2 caps.
Mm-hmm.
But you pull the 2 caps off, and you see 6 holes. And those caps are designed so that the water goes up, goes inside the cap, and then kind of trickles back out.
Okay.
So as long as you can see the cells, I mean, even if I look at this one here, these plates go up in the dividers. They're different. So I don't know. It's tractor battery. What are you asking about tractor battery for? Power ratings. All right. So we talked about voltage. Is how much per cell?
2 volts.
2.1.
2.1 volts per cell. Capacity. So if you take and create a cell, you're going to get 2.1 volts. Now, just because you have 2.1 volts per cell. For example, in lab, you have little 6-volt batteries. If I take two 6-volt batteries, I put them in parallel, how many volts do I have?
The same.
Thank you.
Same voltage.
Okay, same. If I take and put them in series, what happens?
12
12 volts. So can I start my car off of that?
Depends on the.
Nah, good luck.
Yeah.
Well, why good luck? I mean, it's 12 volts,
Well,
right?
you have low amps.
Same amps.
It's got no amps. Okay, so you got to get some amps out of it. That's what capacity is. So just because you have voltage, difference in potential, doesn't mean you have the capacity, the amperage. So you tried, but you didn't have enough hooked together. A rating of current for a length of time. For a length of time. Small batteries may be rated in milliamp hours. Small batteries, like AA batteries, may be rated in milliamp hours. Not so much, right? So an amp times hours equals the amp hours. Aircraft batteries are typically rated at 5 hours. Now, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say this battery is a 5 amp hour rating. It's going to give you an amp hour rating, like 35 amp hours. But where do they get this 35? Because we could take a look at it and we could say, over here, I'll say that, so if I had a 35 amp hour battery, I can get 35 amps for how long?
1 hour.
1 hour. I could get, oh, that's hard math now.
7?
Yeah,
7?
7. What?
7 amps
Just 7.
for 5 hours.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I could do that. I'm going to try to make it easy math. I get 7 amps for how many hours? 5 hours. Or I could get 1 amp for
35 hours.
35 hours. Right? See, so it's the math has to add up to the 35 that I gave you. But it doesn't work that way. It's not linear. You can't really get 35 amps for 1 hour, and you're not really going to get 1 amp for 35 hours. In reality, you're going to get a lot less than 35 amps in an hour, and you're going to get a lot more than 1 amp if you're going to do it for 35 hours. So 1 amp's going to last you longer than 35. You run a little tiny battery, a little tiny light in your tent or something, you crash and it's a little light bulb, and it's going to last a lot longer than 35 hours. But you're going to try and run some sort of resistance heater to heat up the room. Go, well, 35 amps should last an hour. It's not. It's going to last less than that. But so where do they get this 35? Well, they figure it at 5 hours. What is the battery going to do at 5? So let's say if battery supplies 6 amps for 5 hours. What kind of battery is it? Okay, it's a 30 amp hour battery. That's just what my notes said. I did 35 over here. Common ratings are, I think, 25 and 35 amp hours. It's just kind of what I see in general aviation. I wrote this for some reason. I don't know why. I'm just going to throw it out there. Remember, not that I've told you before, so I don't know how you remember, that a 12 volt 30 amp hour battery is actually how many watts? I'll just tell you. 360 watt hours. That's different. So some batteries have, I've seen some that have watt hours. So don't confuse watt hours with amp hours. Let's see. Okay. Then there's the C rate. You can think of C rate as just charge rate. I'm going to try and make this easier. So charge rate. You can think of a charge rate or capacity rate. You can look at it either which way. All right. So charge or capacity, C. All right. So a C1 rate of say a 35 amp hour battery. So it's really 1 hour. 1 hour. What do you have to do in 1 hour? What do you get out of 1 hour from that battery?
35 amps.
Okay, so this is 35 amps. If I said the C2 rate of this 35 amp hour battery is what?
17.5.
It's a C2.
No, this is
Why do I
17.
pick hard numbers?
70 amps.
What's that?
17.5.
Okay, that'd be 17.5. Why 17.5?
Because that's 35 divided by 2.
All right, so it means twice as long. So for 1 hour, I would get the, I'm going to change this just for
I
this,
thought that would be C.5.
the simplicity.
Yes.
Hang on here. Let me change this around. Hang on. Stay quiet. Well, I'm going to go with my notes here so I can get, what did I have here?
25.
I did. I said that wrong, but I was thinking of trying to make it simple. I should have just stopped. All right, C1 rate, we'll save a 40 amp hour battery. So that's 1 hour. So what is it going to be?
40.
Okay, so it's 40 amp hours. All right, now the C2 rate, I'll erase this. 2 is
80.
it?
It's 8.5 rate.
20 amps an hour.
6.5.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna go back up just a little bit. Just we'll do something simpler, and then we're gonna come back to this, just to make it real simple. Okay, so then there's the 0.1C, and I've also seen it
4 amp.
1/10 C, so it can go in a fraction, but okay, just be careful of that. So the 0.1C, so that's 0.1. So what is that? How many?
4 amp.
Okay, so it's 0.1. You just take the number 0.1 times the amp hour, which is 40. So that's 0.1 times 40 equals 4. It's going to be the decimal place one. You can do it with the calculator, but it's 4 amp hours. Okay, so if 0.1 is 4, that's less. Okay, can you remember this? 1 is just the battery rating.
Yep.
So it's the rating times 1. 0.1 is just the rating times 0.1. Okay, but now what is the C2 rate?
80.
Is it 80?
Divide by 2?
no,
No, you times it.
Times it by 2. So again, it's the 2 times the amp hour equals 80. 80 amps. So I could say I have to charge this battery, this 40 amp battery, I have to charge it at a C2 rate. So what am I going to select on the machine? How many amps will I select? 80. All right, so keep in mind that when you're charging a battery, and the battery charger, I have a selection switch. I can choose constant current, or I can choose
Constant voltage.
constant potential, which is the same thing as voltage. I don't know why they chose it that way. So I got a switch. I can go one or the other. I can't have constant current potential, so I got to choose one or the other. Right now I'm talking about a C rate, so I'm going to be over here, constant current. So I select constant current. Now I'm going to have another dial that's going to say, how many amps do you want? I get to plug in my amps here. So if I have a 40 amp hour battery and I want to do it at a C1 rate, how many amps am I going to select?
40 amps.
Okay, it's 40. 40.0. Well, the book says I can charge it at a C2 rate, and, well, I got to think, why would I do that? So I get to my hangar, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I want to be to lunch out at, is it Willows or Williams? Willows, thank you. I want to be out to lunch by noon, so I got to get this battery charged because it's dead, so I can go up to a C2 rate. So what is my C2 rate? How many amps can I select? 80. I can select 80 amps. All right. But it's my airplane and my battery, and I'm really cheap. I don't want to buy a new battery. So I look at the book and it says, well, you can charge it at a 0.1 C rate. If I select 0.1, the 0.1 C, how many amps would I select here?
4.
Okay, 4. 4.0 amps, because it's the 1 C times the 40 amp hours. Everybody follow that?
So your battery is 80 amps?
No. Oh, that would be the C2 rate. Okay.
Your battery's
My battery is 40 amp hours. Where did I get that number from?
The side of your battery.
Side of the battery is exactly where I got it from. So stamp right on there. Like I said, most of them say 25 or 35, but default's 5. So it's just a charge rate. So the manual that you're getting for the battery doesn't go through and say, well, if you have a 40 amp hour battery, then you can charge it at a rate of 40 amps per hour. If you have a 35, you can do 30. They just say it's a C1 rate. So you got to do the math yourself. What's 1 times 40? 40. So that's my rate. If I say charge it at a C2 rate, what's 2 times 40?
82.
It's 80. Yeah.
If you charge a battery at the C2 rate, is that, how am I going to say this? Does the charge time get cut in half?
Oh, yeah. If you put 80 amps, so okay, so Christian's got we both show up, and we both left our batteries on, and so I take mine and I put it on my charger, and I put it, I'm conservative, so, but I'm still in a hurry, so I'm going to put it on C1 rate, so I put it on 40. Christian, he's in a much bigger hurry, so he puts his on a C2 rate. How many amps?
80.
Oh. 80?
80. Good job. All right, so 80. Who's going to charge first? Who's going to buy their next battery first? He's heating it up. But okay. Or if you want to be super conservative, I go the point. All right. So Michelle, she's very conservative because. So anyway, I was going to make up a story. Stole her battery from Ivan. She doesn't want to steal another one. But so she's going to pick the 0.1 C rate, which is how many amps? 4. Her battery's going to last the longest, but she'll be there the longest waiting for it to charge up. All right, so you just have to look for all of that. Now while I'm on this subject, since I selected constant current, what's happening over here with this voltage? What is the voltage going to be what's the voltage going to be?
It's gonna vary.
It's going to vary. Okay, so if we put a voltmeter on Christian's and he's got a 12-volt battery, we might look at it and go, dang, man, it's 28 volts. It could be a lot of voltage. It's going to be a lot. You look at mine, it's going to go, okay, well, I'm more like 16, depending on, and then you look at Michelle's and you're like, well, you're just barely over 12. It's just a nice little trickle charge and it's going in. You're cooking the heck out of yours, and so in order to get all that amps in through the resistance, what do you have to have? Thank you. You got to have voltage to get through the resistance to push the amps in. So you can have massive amount of voltage.
His plane's rented.
Oh, okay. I hope so. I'm going to have a medium voltage, and then Michelle's going to have the lowest. But it's going to have to be more than the battery voltage, otherwise it's not going to go in.
Yes.
All right. Now, if I change the switch and I put it on constant potential, it's going to set the voltage, and the amps are going to vary. So we got same scenario, but all we have is the constant potential, but it has a low, medium, and high settings for it. So Christian, again, he says, well, I'm in a hurry, so he puts it on high. It's going to be 14, 15 volts, we'll say 15. And he's going to have high, he may have 30 amps going into it. I'll pick the medium, I have the same voltage, but it's going to be like 10 amps. And Michelle, she's going to have the same voltage, but put low, and so she's going to have low amperage going into it. So you see that one changes and one remains the same. Yeah.
you select constant potential, then you still put the amps on or not?
You can to a small amount with car chargers, but with our aircraft charger, you really don't. I mean, once you select the voltage, you watch the amps go up and down. And if you select constant current and you change the current, you'll watch the volts go up and down to match. So it's always got to match. And it depends on the state of charge. As the battery nears, so if we have it on constant potential, as the battery fills up, the amps will start falling off all on its own. If you select constant current, as it gets near the top, you'll watch the voltage fall. Yeah.
Regarding the quality of batteries, does it vary your C rate that you can apply to the battery? Because I know in like car batteries, if you buy a quality one, you can charge it faster.
Okay.
Like a boat battery?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so yes, you have boat batteries, you have RV batteries, deep cycle batteries. The thing about aircraft batteries, and this is more my opinion, is you can see how small they are. They're very small and they're lightweight. Well, they're heavy, but you want them to be small and just enough to do the job because you don't want to carry around a bunch of extra weight. So in order to make them small, you got to pack the plates in tighter. So in my opinion, no. For every car battery that I go through, I go through 3 aircraft batteries. They don't last. All right, let's see.
How much do they cost, retail?
I'm going to tell you in just a minute here, actually.
I know the RD35 Compass.
Don't really.
Yeah.
$435.
Let's see. Well, I think we'll just take a break here and we'll come back to this.